Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Resentment is killing your sex life. If you're struggling in your sex life, you might think that you're dealing with low libido or an unfair workload, but the real issue is buried resentment that you haven't yet named. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to recognize hidden resentment, why it's blocking connection and pleasure, and how to start letting it go so that you can actually enjoy sex and feel close to your husband again. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and joining me is my semi-regular co-host, Kathleen Chovanes. Okay. Resentment.
Are
you resentful?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. Ellen and I were talking a little bit just kind of before recording. Like, we've sort of pinpointed that resentment, I think, can take two forms. One where it's like, maybe you have a reason to feel resentful, right? Like maybe you think you have a reason to feel resentful, right? Like there's just an inequality of something in your relationship where, you go to anyone else and they would sort of affirm you in that, yes, like you should be resentful about that. Like, this is logical that you're feeling resentful.
Oh, it's so easy to find people who will affirm you for being resentful.
Yeah.
And just so all of you know, this episode is not that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So buckle up, friends.
Yeah. But then the flip side of that, right, is where you may not recognize that the feeling you're feeling is resentment. And this is, like, I love talking from personal experience, right? This is me. Like this has been me over years, right? That it's just like, I see the way that my husband is being helpful or trying to be helpful. I see his willingness to be helpful. I see his willingness to kind of do anything I ask him to do. But there's this hidden part where it's like, anytime he asks, hey, can I go out and do this thing for myself? It's like, really? Really? You want to leave? Mm-hmm. Like, you get to go to work all day long and handle things outside of this house. And now that it's your time to be home, you want to go and do something else? Like, how dare you? But listen, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I fully and I would notice it in the moment that he would give me any time I ever needed. But there was a part of me that didn't recognize that. I was like, yeah, but I deserve those moments. I'm home all the time. I'm doing all this stuff all the time.
You don't deserve them because you get those moments, when you're driving to and from work, and you get those quiet moments.
Here you go, friends. That's not true. Like,
yeah,
he does deserve those moments, right? But so it's this hidden feeling of like, okay, I know he deserves those moments. So why do I feel this like vitriol? Why do I feel this? And so you may not even recognize that what you're feeling is resentment. Mm-hmm. And it sort of comes up as this like hidden thing. And then you're kind of looking into all of these different reasons or ways to kind of fix your libido, right? To like fix your sex life. You're looking into supplements. You're looking into, like therapy. You're looking into like, the way you're eating, more exercise, like all of these things. When in reality, you might just need to work on your resentment. Because resentment is going to kill your libido, right? It's going to kill your libido and it's going to kill your marriage.
So I looked up the definition of resentment. And resentment is bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. That's the definition of resentment. And then I was like, thanks for defining a word with a big word, Google. So then I looked up indignation. Yeah. So it's like,
come on, Google. We're not all AI robots.
Indignation is a synonym of bitterness. I mean, sorry, is a synonym of resentment.
Oh my gosh. You're like, wow, okay, so you just defined a word with the word.
Like, you just defined it with like the word. So indignation which is very similar to resentment, is anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment.
Huge clarifier there. Perceived.
And so perceived unfairness. Yeah. And I think, honestly, I really think that is the root of this. And so when I was growing up, constantly, you know, kids do this. They're like, oh, that's not fair. That's not fair, right? Kids want things to be fair. And you know what my parents' response every single time that I said, that's not fair? You know what their response was? Because it was probably your parents' response.
Life's not fair.
Life's not fair.
That may or may not be my current response to my children.
I know, I hated that response, but I 100% use it with my kids. And I'm like, oh, man.
Because it's true.
It's so absolutely true.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is marriage isn't fair. I remember watching this. It was just like this motivational speaker who was like talking about marriage. And he was like, all right, what percentage of like shared responsibility should there be in marriage? And like somebody in the audience is like, oh, it should be 50-50. And somebody else in the audience, and the guy was like, nope. And somebody in the audience was like, oh, you should give a little more than you expect to get. So it should be 60-40. And he's like, nope. And somebody was like, oh, it's 80-20. Nope. And so then he like turns around to the board and he writes 100-0. That is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
You signed up to love, not to be loved when you got married. Look at the vows you said. You said, I'm going to do all of these things. You never said, you're going to do these things for me. You did not vow to be loved by your husband. You vowed to love. And so marriage, by its very nature, is supposed to be unfair. You're supposed to give more than you ever expect to receive in response, right? And that's God's relationship with us. He gives 100% every time, and he never expects to receive that back. He wants it back, right? And of course we want it back, right? We give 100% and we desire to be loved in return, but it is unfair of us to expect that, because it's not what we signed up for. It's not what we vowed on our wedding day. And so resentment is 1000% a trick of the devil.
Yeah.
It
really
is the devil just trying to pull your marriage apart. There is no room for resentment in your marriage. It's not like it will not serve you.
Yeah.
It will not ever serve your marriage to be frustrated that your husband, missed the one chore that you expected him to do. Like Kathleen was talking before about like husband not taking the trash can out.
Vitriol.
And getting like really, really mad about that.
The vitriol over him not taking the trash out. It was palpable. But in my mind.
But we've all done that. We've all done that where, we've got the various chores. And I've had that before with just like my husband for several years of our marriage, and still a lot today. Like he's kind of the one that like closes down the kitchen. And like when he would miss a couple of dishes in the morning, I would be so mad. I'd be like, how did you miss these dishes? Like they're sitting here. Like, this is your job, that kind of thing. And it's,
can I just point out something that my therapist actually pointed out to me regarding this? That because I started maybe like, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago that I really started kind of prodding into this resentment. And believe it or not, it was over some random Instagram account that was like suggested for me. And, she was talking about like her low libido and basically how the source of it was resentment. And I was kind of like, I need to think about this a little bit. And I was like kind of sitting on it and thinking on it and praying on it. And I brought it to therapy, where it's just kind of like, yeah, you know what? Like I do realize that there's a lot of him that I resent unfairly. And I brought up the trash situation, how I was pulling out of the driveway, bringing the kids to school. and I noticed the trash had not been put out, and trash was like about to be collected, or it was like being collected. Like I saw the truck down the street, and the vitriol, like I said. But in my head, I knew, like, you know what? Like, I didn't put it out either. And like,
right.
There are plenty of times that I forget to do things that I ought to do or am responsible for doing. So why am I giving him like such grief in my mind right now?
Yeah.
And she pointed out that amidst our conversations, she knows that I don't give myself any grace. So how can I expect to give him grace? Right? That like, if we don't give ourselves love and grace, how do we expect to be able to do it for other people?
Oh my gosh.
Right? Where I was like, wow, and I know like women, right? So many of us we just approach life with this perfectionistic perspective and tendency. Like we've got to do it all. We've got to be it all. And when we fall short, we can so struggle to give ourselves grace.
Yeah.
And love over it.
Do you love yourself?
Right.
Do you love yourself? I'm reading The Secret Garden to my daughter right now. And we're just at the very beginning of the book. But there's this conversation with one of the like housemaids is telling this story about this conversation that she had with her mom. Mm-hmm. And she was like, Martha is the name of this housemaid. And she's like, yeah, I was talking to my mom and I was just really in a mood. And I was talking about how everybody was doing everything wrong. And like all these people were just terrible and all that. And my mom stopped me and she said, wow, you really don't love all these people. Do you love yourself? Mm. And the character, Martha, is like, it stopped me in my tracks. And that got me out of my attitude. Yeah. Right. Because it's like, how can you expect to love someone else if you don't love yourself?
Yeah.
And that's your marriage, right? How can you expect to love your spouse if you don't love yourself? If you are just ragging on yourself internally all the time for every little mistake that you make. Mm-hmm. Of course, like that's the script going on in your head is, oh my gosh, you're such an idiot. Oh, how did you forget that? Are you kidding me? That needed to be done a week ago. If that's going on in your head, that's what's going to come out of your mouth to the people around 100%. You.
100%. So really, I think that is like, okay, normally we kind of talk out the issue in these episodes and then we kind of start providing, right? Like, okay, what do you do about this? Number one is start to love yourself. If you find...
Check the things you're saying to yourself.
Exactly. Like
first.
Check your internal dialogue, how you treat yourself. Because if you're finding that you are resentful of your husband, whether it's, seemingly deserved or undeserved or whatever, if you feel resentment there over any situation, look back and think, well, how would I treat myself in that same situation? If this were me that did that, how would I speak to myself about it? Because if it were me missing the trash, the first thing I would have said to myself, you idiot. Why? How did you do this again? How? Why? Now you've set your whole week behind. And trash is going to be overflowing. Like, why are you so stupid?
That is a really annoying one to miss.
It's super annoying. Like, especially like when you're still trying to catch up post-Christmas, all the trash you accumulate over Christmas, right? But regardless,
we just moved, and I feel like not even just. It's been like 2 months now, and I feel like we are still trying to catch up, like on trash.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely, right. But regardless, like that's the first thing I would have said to myself. You stupid idiot.
Yeah.
Why would you do this? Now look what you've done.
Yeah. Oh, like, now look what you've done.
So how
often do we say that to ourselves? Now look what you've done.
So why would I expect me to give my husband any more grace than I give to myself?
Yeah.
Right? So that's number one. I would say, and again, this is someone who literally is just going through this, right? Like
on the journey.
On the journey right now with you all, is to name it, to identify the fact that you feel resentful. Because my husband and I went out on date night, and we had a friend watching the kids. There was no rush to get back. We went out to this great, like, you know, fired brick oven pizza place. And afterwards it was kind of like, well, I said it as a dream date. So I said, come with all of the things that have been on your heart and your mind, the dreams that you have, and let's just talk them all out and decide what we're going to do this year. Like, what are we going to, you know, kind of commit to?
Oh, I love those. I love those kind of conversations. Yeah. They're so fun.
It was very fun. And really the only thing my husband had was, I just want to work on our marriage. Like, I just want our marriage to improve. And I want to get to a place where we feel like at peace with it. And so after we left the restaurant, we kept like driving around, just like talking. And, you know, he was like, I just feel like we've had all the conversations we can have about our marriage. Like, and nothing's really like different. And this was when all of the resentment stuff was really swirling in my mind, because I had just like a week or two prior, like randomly come across this Instagram account, and I had been like thinking and praying on it. And we literally drove to the Adoration Chapel, and we sat in the parking lot, and I like let it out that just like, you know what? I realized that I have been feeling completely resentful towards you, and all the reasons why and everything. And it took him back, and he was like, I'm really happy to hear this, because it's the first new conversation that we've had in a very long time. And I recognized in that moment that resentment is absolutely a spirit, right? Like the devil just puts this spirit of resentment in your life and makes you think.
It feels so justified.
It does.
And oh my gosh,
yeah.
If we ever say, oh, I'm justified in this feeling, being justified in something is not something we as humans can ever do.
Yeah.
As a fallen human being, we do not know true justice. Mm-hmm. We truly do not. And so if you're ever thinking, oh, I'm justified in this, you're not. You are absolutely not. The only person who is justified fully in his actions is God. Mm-hmm. Because he is justice, right? Truly. He is truth. Mm-hmm. And so I think like resentment is it's such a like poison in marriages, because it feels right. Yeah. You know what? My husband, he's being selfish right now. My husband isn't doing, I'm doing more work than my husband right now. I do more chores. I have more responsibility than my husband. He doesn't have the responsibility that I have. Like, all of those things could be true. Mm-hmm. They could be. I don't know. I don't know your situation. But thinking about them and ruminating on them doesn't serve you, because you cannot change your husband. And that's one of the most important things that we need to recognize when we're trying to improve our marriage, when we're trying to improve our sex life, is the only person you can change is you. Ever. And resentment is never justified. Mm-hmm. It truly never is. And we've already kind of talked about, like, you didn't sign up to be loved, right? You signed up to receive your husband's love. You didn't sign up for like him to give his love, right? There's a big difference there. Yeah. You signed up to receive, but when we're being resentful, your hands are not open to receive. You're like swatting them away like flies.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. I mean, it's like, we just need to call it out. And I'm not saying that it's easy to switch over from feeling very resentful over all sorts of things to just like wipe the slate clean. But we got to call it out that it's not okay that you're being resentful in your marriage, because it's killing your marriage.
You're exactly right. I like love what you said, that like it's not easy to do it. But let me also counter that by saying, you know what is easy to do is once you recognize that it's there, and if you can, you know, that it's basically a spirit that the devil is like putting there, what's really easy to do is to ask God to take it away. Right? Like all you have to do, you have to recognize that, okay, I can't get rid of this on my own, but there is someone who can and who wants to get rid of it, who doesn't want it, right? But you have to be willing to hand it over. And that doesn't mean that you're never going to feel it again. But what it does mean is that you can be given the grace that in those moments that you would typically start to feel, and you might even still start to feel resentful, the Holy Spirit will be there to soften that and to allow you to think of it differently and to give you that new perspective on it. And I will say that in the last few weeks since this conversation and this naming it and this praying against it, I have truly felt it to be easier to love my husband. I have felt it to be easier to be open to intimacy and to sex and like everything, because I feel God working. And even though there are absolutely still those moments where I'm like, honestly, really? Like, is that what you really want to do right now? Is that what you're going to do right now? Right? Like, they're there, but I am finding it easier to give him the grace that, like, he's human. Of course. Do I expect myself to do the same things? Like, do I never make the same mistakes? No, I make those mistakes probably more often than he does.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
let's remember that. Like, let's get the beam out of our own eye.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But just in praying against it regularly, I see God working. I see his hand I feel his hand in it and freeing me slowly of just the absolute pit of resentment that I was in.
Yeah. And let me just speak into those of you who are listening to this and you're like, but he is doing it wrong. But it is unfair. But yeah.
Maybe.
That's probably true. Maybe it is. But resentment, holding on to resentment, is like holding on to, like, I don't know, a poison that is killing you and killing your marriage instead of like letting it go. Mm-hmm. And maybe the poison is like, feels good in the moment. Maybe it's warm, you know?
Yeah.
Anger is a very warm feeling.
True. Sometimes even hot.
Right. That's when you know it's bad. But resentment is, we were talking about like justified, right? It is an extremely satisfying emotion to have, right? Because it feels like we're being like, it feels like vindication. It feels like we're making it even. Because it's like, oh yeah, like we're tearing our husband down because of all the things that he did or didn't do that weren't fair. And it feels very satisfying. And so it is extremely hard to let go of resentment and give it to God, because then it feels like we're not going to be vindicated. Then it's just like, oh, well, but then how is he ever going to know that he's not doing the things he needs to do? There are plenty of ways to lovingly ask your husband, remind your husband to do things that don't involve you poisoning yourself and your marriage with resentment. Yeah. And let's really dig into resentment. And we're going to use, Kathleen, your example here. You were pulling out of the driveway, taking your kids to school, and you were super mad at your husband. Was he in the car with you?
No.
No. Mm-mm. Could you have said anything to him at that moment? No.
Nope. It's a good point.
So how does resentment, particularly when our husband is nowhere around, like, how does that help the situation at all? Yeah. It doesn't, right? Like, the only time that I think you could even argue that resentment could be helpful is if you're actually present, and then you can tell him, right? But then, do we ever have productive conversations when we're yelling at each other?
Yeah.
No, right? Like, the productive conversations are when we're both calm, when we're both like recognizing the situation and listening and expressing our needs and wants and desires. Yeah. So the resentment is never going to get you what you think it's getting you. And so that I'm kind of trying to argue that if you're feeling like, no, I've got to hold on to it because otherwise, like, it's going to be unfair, that's not a reason to hold on to it. And just like, we need to recognize that holding on to resentment feels so much more productive than letting go of it. Well, when it's actually the opposite.
What I think, like, you know, as I'm listening to you talk, like, it's like we confuse resentment for accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like,
absolutely.
Oh, I have to hold on to this or else he has no way of being held accountable. Because maybe, like, you're right. Maybe you're resenting things that he really should change or he should do better at, right? Or try harder at.
Right.
But that's not accountability. Like Ellen's saying, like, the accountability would to calmly have a discussion, right? Or maybe if you're in marriage therapy, right? Or marriage counseling, like, bring it up in counseling, right? Hey, these things really frustrate me. But the resentment is essentially holding on to, like, I am going to despise this until you do something about it.
Yeah. And that's never going to serve.
It's never going to serve. Exactly. Like, and honestly, I just think that there are times that once I started pinpointing this resentment, I was able to see things that I was holding on to from our past. Like, I was resenting him for things he did when we were 20 years old, right? Like, that's not, I mean, we're 38 now. That's been 18 years, right? Like,
it's not helping.
Yeah, that has not been serving us at all, right? And it was this feeling of, like, he needs to be held accountable for those things. But it's like, okay, but it's 18 years later, honey. Like,
I think we're past that.
Consider him accountable, right? Like, let's go on.
Yeah.
Like, let's, right? So, like, yeah, it's just this, I think we confuse it. And we have to realize we can hold accountable without holding on to resentment.
Without resentment, yeah. So I want to give a challenge for you if you're recognizing, oh, this is something I struggle with, which we all do. So it's a challenge for everybody. Is what happens when two people get married? To become one. So anytime that something is missed, something is forgotten, a mistake is made, this is a we problem. This is not a him problem. So I want you, and we're going to use Kathleen's trash can example. Okay. Trash is not taken out. He didn't take out the trash. No, we didn't. We didn't. Because that's true. You and your husband didn't get the trash taken out. Sure, it might have been like on his to-do list, but we collectively didn't get this done. And like, let's go into sex, because I have a lot of students who are very resentful of their husband for always experiencing pleasure in sex. And like, you're not experiencing orgasm. Okay. You've got to change it. We didn't experience orgasm. We didn't figure it out this time. This is a we problem. So I think this is like a super easy little mind trick that we can do, or it's not even a trick. This is a tool of, as soon as you feel that kind of resentment, he didn't, right? I want you to change it to we, and just observe how that changes your attitude about it. And you might say we and be like, no, but it's not my thing that I'm supposed to do. No, it is. It really is. You two become one. Everything that you do is together, whether or not you're physically together, right? Like you are spiritually bonded in a way that we cannot even comprehend.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, you know, when you pray, but your husband isn't praying, that serves both of you. Like that is how deeply united the two of you are. And so anytime that there is something that is missed, feels unfair, like you need to switch it to we, because right now your marriage is showing you this truth of we, and we gotta recognize that truth.
Yeah. I love that.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast, could you do me a favor really quick? Go into the podcast app that you are listening in, and if it gives you an option to rate and review, please rate and review this podcast. It helps us so much in reaching new listeners and spreading the word about this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.